Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Omega Wednesday night workshop. Tonight's topic, I wanted to talk about something that is very important. It probably could save your life. It's breathing. The idea, not just breathing, but conscious breathing. Why is this an important topic? For so many reasons, but I want to give you a quote that I came across on the net today by Marilyn Monroe, and she said, "What's the point of taking a big inhale if all we're going to do is exhale and do it all over again?" I think that's so important, is to become aware of the breathing that we're doing, how it's affecting our body, and what can we do in the moments that we breathe. Anyone who practices yoga understands the idea of breathing. Naturally, that's part of the whole point, the pranayama breathing, which pranayama means prana, life, and then yama, I think is the way you say at the end, that means the extension. So breathing can help us actually extend our lives. So I did a little bit of research. They say the average person takes 16 breaths a minute. 16 breaths a minute, the average person, not including someone who's exercising. Just a normal individual sitting around takes 16 breaths a minute. That comes out to 960 breaths per hour, which is 2,040 breaths a day. Now, that's a lot of breathing. The question, of course, I'd ask yourself, or ask myself, is, how often am I aware of breathing? Now, I do become aware when I'm breathing shallow. If I'm exercising and working out, I become aware, I've got to take the deep breath in and exhale, get into the rhythm of exercising. But that's usually the only time I'm conscious of my breathing. Of course, many of us become aware of our breathing when we're feeling stressful, or if you're watching one of a scary movie, we hold our breath waiting for that moment. So that's the time that we do become aware of our breath, but for the most part, we can live an entire day, go 24 hours, and not even be aware of our breathing. Now, as a child, I had asthma, and so I learned to be aware of, to calm myself down, because when you have asthma and you start panicking, it's quite easy to panic when you can't get enough breath in, which makes the asthma worse. So I learned on my own how to control my breathing to slow it down so that the asthma wouldn't take me out, because I know some people have actually been hospitalized because of asthma attacks. Now, because breathing is such an important topic, I actually went online to research this. I went to Amazon. There are over 6,000 book titles just on the word breathing. 6,000 book titles on breathing. That means there's 6,000 people who have written a book on the art of breathing, or the benefits of breathing. There is a website called consciousbreathing.com, which I found quite interesting. It talks about not breathing through your nose, but breathing through your mouth to fully inhale, which is a contradiction to some of the other techniques that I've learned throughout my life, where you're supposed to breathe through your nose and not through your mouth. Most of the techniques that I've learned is the inhale through the nose and the exhale through your mouth. That's the concept of it. There's actually even a breathing network. So when we have a breathing network, there's a breathing network of people out there that are actually teaching individuals how to breathe appropriately. Now, you would think that's odd, because breathing is so natural. We do it without even thinking about it. Why do we need to be taught how to breathe again? Well, of course, we know in today's day and age, there's so much stress that we're surrounded with that begins to build up. And we've actually, with the anxiety added on top of that, we've learned how to breathe shallow. And I happen to be one of those people that I'm a shallow breather. I've become aware that I'm a shallow breather. I didn't always used to be a shallow breather. As a matter of fact, I had a great capacity, a lung capacity. I, at one time when I was in college, managed to extend my lung capacity so much that I could swim from one end of an Olympic-sized pool to the other completely underwater in one breath. And I actually did it one time where I went all the way down and all the way back in one breath. I had a really good mastery of my breathing. But then as I got older, life unfolds. You know, you get the mortgage and the car payments and the bills start to pile. Life starts building up. And I think that took its toll on me, and I'm assuming it probably has taken its toll on many other individuals as well. So I think I forgot how to breathe. I love the idea of doing yoga because yoga does bring us back to the breath. Almost every posture, breathe through it. That's what you're supposed to do. Breathe through the posture, or breathe through the pain. I'm sure you've heard that, breathe through the pain. Labor, Lamaze, breathing, it's breathing through the pain. And I, for one, have been an individual that when I get injured, I breathe. I just breathe through the pain and bring my focus back to my breath. So what exactly is conscious breathing? Well, that sounds like a no-brainer. I'm conscious of my breath, but I did find this definition quite intriguing. Conscious breathing is the practice of breathing with awareness, intention, and attention to your inner experience in the present moment. So I'll say that again. Conscious breathing is the practice of breathing with awareness, intention, and attention in the present moment. To your inner experience in the present moment. Breathing, beyond the basic need for survival, acts as a bridge between spirit, mind, and body, between the conscious and the subconscious. I really did like that delivery, the idea that my breathing actually is the bridge that gets me connected from the conscious and the unconscious, and of course the body to the spirit. I've always loved the beautiful picture that the spirit is connected to the breath. When you inhale, you're inhaling the breath of God. Exhaling, you're exhaling, delivering back or giving back for what we've been given. There's a rhythm that goes on with breathing as well. So I've always loved that beautiful picture of it. Of course, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just the picture that's been given to me. So the idea of the deep breathing, what are some of the benefits of deep breathing? Well, of course, naturally, it helps us with stress. Many times when you're in a stressful situation, the first thing is take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. When we take a deep breath in a stressful situation, it actually brings our mind to our breath. We're not freaking out and thinking, and making things worse. When we take a deep breath, it actually centers us, brings our attention back to us, brings our attention back to being focused. Of course, naturally, the physical body is in the present moment. So anytime we do something to connect ourselves to the physical body, it brings us back to the present moment. This is why breath is so important. In many philosophies, many meditations, breath is so important because it's connected to the present moment. Anytime I focus on my breathing, I am back now in the present moment. Why is it important to be in the present moment? Well, the present moment is all that we have. When I focus on being in the present moment, that's where my creativity comes into play. My attractive energies, things that I'm looking for, I'm entering into, I'm bonding with, connecting with, everything that's happening in the present moment. Life's not passing me by, I'm actually participating in life when I'm in the present moment. Many people have incredible creative ideas while they're in the present moment. Musicians, sometimes they say that they become the music, because they're in that moment. Athletes, the same thing. They say they become the race when they're in the present moment. So being in the present moment is very beneficial. So back to the idea, calming. A deep breath helps calm, relieve stress and anxiety. If you've ever been around someone who's having a panic attack, same thing. You just have to get them to breathe, and actually what they suggest is have you count numbers randomly, repeat 10, 8, 7, 2, 4, 5, and get them to focus on the numbers because it distracts you from the panic attack that's going on inside your head. Deep breathing is also considered a natural painkiller. I am 100% behind this. I totally believe in this. I have breathed through a number of injuries and surgeries where I refused the actual pain medication. I would just breathe through it, focus on my breathing, focus on my breathing. So I am a complete believer that breathing is a natural painkiller. Breathing calms anxiety along with stress. It can calm anxiety. Breathing also helps promote a better blood flow. The more I breathe consciously, deep breathing, when I'm taking those deep breaths, I'm filling my lungs with oxygen. That oxygen is then passed throughout into the bloodstream and fills my body with renewed oxygen. So the more I take deep breaths, the more refreshed and renewed my cells are, because I'm breathing. And then exhaling. With the deep breath, you're also exhaling, getting rid of the toxins and the carbon dioxide that doesn't belong, monoxide that doesn't belong inside of us. So when it comes to the deep breathing, it promotes better, it also promotes better blood flow, but then it makes you more mindful of your body, which I've already mentioned, the idea of being conscious in the present moment. And then finally, deep breathing increases our energy. When we take those deep breaths, we really do become more energetic because the oxygen is flowing, our body's more alive, and all the stuff that's happening within the brain cells and whatnot, because the oxygen is generating throughout our body. I don't know the scientific terms or the technical terms. I just know we have more energy. So when I take deep breaths, I end up with more energy. Now, as I said, I'm a person who breathes shallow. So when you breathe shallow, you become aware or accustomed to not taking deep breaths. I love that there's an app on my watch that just says breathe, and I have it set every hour. It goes off and reminds me to take a deep breath. When I first thought of it, I was like, that's a stupid reminder. Who needs to be? But I'm going to tell you, I'm very grateful for it. When that thing goes off and I feel that alarm, I realize I'm not breathing deep. I'm breathing shallow. I'll catch myself breathing shallow. Now, the disadvantages of breathing shallow, first of all, you can't handle stress or anxiety because you don't have enough oxygen running through your system. You get very lightheaded and dizzy because you're just breathing shallow. My orientation ends up being off because I'm already, because of being deaf in one ear, I already have, what is the word? That when your stability is off, equilibrium, my equilibrium is off. So by breathing shallow, it actually makes that equilibrium worse for me. Now, again, I'm just using myself. I'm certain there's many other individuals who have the same issue of breathing shallow, whether it's the stress or wanting to hide, fear, panic. All of those come into play on why we breathe shallow. So again, I'm grateful for this little app that goes off and reminds me to breathe. And when I sit and consciously take deep breaths, I actually get dizzy. I think it's because I'm not accustomed to having control of my breathing. I'm not sure, but I do get dizzy, and I have to work myself through it where it doesn't bother me anymore. But throughout my years and my studies, you would think I would breathe deeply because I've been trained to breathe deep, and I don't. You know, it's one of those things, oh yeah, that was nice, I'll remember to do that one day. It's on a sticky note, one day to do. I wanted to go through a couple of techniques that were taught to me. One that's very popular right now, it's called the 4-7-8 technique. And on this one, all you do is you exhale, whoosh it out, make a very loud vocal sound, you whoosh, and exhale. And once you've exhaled your breath, then you breathe in your nose, through your nose, for a count of 4. Now, not 1, 2, 3, 4, and not 1001, 1002, not that. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, very rhythmic. So you would inhale through your nose for a count of 4, then you hold your breath for a count of 7, and then you exhale again, the whoosh, on a count of 8. And that's considered one breath. So we can do it now. So we're just going to go whoosh, exhale, then you're going to inhale through your nose for a count of 7. Excuse me, a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then hold that for a count of 7 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then exhale, same thing with the whoosh, whoosh, for a count of 8. Now you don't have to hold it at the end of 8, I didn't count there, sorry, but I figure you know what you're doing. You get to a count of 8, just whoosh it out. That would be considered one breath. Now that's considered one deep breath. Now how many times you do the deep breathing on that one, I do not know. The one that I'm the most familiar with is the one that it's a 4-step process. So you inhale on a count, hold it on a count, exhale on a count, and then hold that on a count. And the way I was taught, you start with a count of 3 until you feel comfortable enough to move up to a 4 or a 5, and eventually you take it all the way to a count of 10. Now I can't do 10, I think 7 or 8 is pretty much where I go. So it goes something like this. You inhale, now you don't have to inhale through your nose, although that is the way I've been taught. You inhale through your nose, so we can do this together right now. Inhaling in your nose, through your nose, for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll just take it for 5. Hold that for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now exhale through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then hold that, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. Now that 4-step process, the way I was taught to do that is for the amount of counting that you do, that's how many breaths you do. So if you inhaled for a count of 3, hold it for a count of 3, exhale for a count of 3, and hold it for a count of 3, you do that 3 times. If you've inhaled for 7, you do it 7 times. And of course, naturally, the idea is to get to 10 and hold that and do that 10 times. Now, the next obvious question is, well, how many times should you do deep breathing exercises throughout the day? There is no answer on that one. Really, whenever you feel the need to do it. If you're feeling stressed, if you're about to go into a meeting, if you're preparing for a difficult conversation, if you're going to visit your in-laws, I don't know. Whenever you feel like the idea that you need to calm down, you would do your conscious breathing. The last thing that I was also taught, which you're probably going to want a wide shot on this one, because when it comes to the breathing, I was taught to also using your arms. So, and this one I actually prefer, and I like to do this outside. But the idea is, it's the same thing. You're going to breathe and hold. It's a 4-step process, but you're going to incorporate your arms. By bringing our arms out to the side, we're actually expanding our chest cavity, and that's what we want to do. Now, some people say lift up. I'm not the fan of lifting up. I like the arms out. There's just something about the arms being out and then bringing them back in, kind of like I feel like I'm swimming even though I know I'm not. So what you do is you start here on the exhale. You exhale all your breath out, a big whoosh, exhale it out. And then as you inhale, inhale through your nose on this one. So you inhale, and on this one, you move your arms to a certain count, so that by the end of the count, your arms are parallel to your body, not farther behind, but exactly parallel to your body. So you make a T. Therefore, if you want to do for a count of 3, it would look like this. 1, 2, 3. If you're going to do it for a count of 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you should always know what your ending point is, and then you can gauge your breathing. So again, it's the same 4-step process, except this one you start with the exhale. So you would exhale out, and then I'll do it for a count of 5. Most people can do that quite easily. So we're going to exhale, and then you're going to inhale through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then hold right here. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this is a slow exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Bringing your hands back together, and then hold that. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I said bringing your hands back together, but the truth is they're not really back together. They should kind of be directly from your shoulders. I was a little too close in there. What you can do, though, is there's another option when you do this. If you're doing this, you can actually arch your back to really exhale and expel as much air out of your lungs. So that is an option. If you do that, then you can bring your hands together. But the way I was taught is when you exhale, you kind of always just leave this little space for the air to go through, and then just hold it there. So that would be the one, that's my preference exercise. I really do like that one. I was actually taught to do that one on a count of 10, and that was kind of hard to try to exhale for a count of 10 when you're first learning how to do it and then holding it. And then again, I tried to do this right here where you gotta push it out at the very end. But I kind of like, because I have a bad back, it's a little bit easier for me to stay straight and work it that way. That's my favorite exercise. And as I said, I like to do that outside. Of course, anytime you do any breathing outside, it always is far more beneficial. I did have somebody one time, they were doing little risks, so they went into, you know when you go into the airports and they have the smoker's room? They actually went into the smoker's room to try to do the breathing exercise. They couldn't do it. It was too congesting to them, so please don't use that as a risk. Just go make sure that you have a place there's good air around you when you're doing this. So those are the techniques that I wanted to pass on to you. Again, as you're doing the breathing, when you're exhaling and inhaling as you're doing that, most people are just focusing on the numbers, and that's fine. You don't have to be thinking a mantra. You don't have to be considering what life's purpose is. None of that. All you need to do is just focus on the breathing. You might get to a state where after you do your breathing, you bring yourself to a state of peaceful bliss, I guess. Some people like to do this right before they meditate. I'm a huge advocate of doing conscious breathing before you meditate. As a matter of fact, in the Omecta Vector programs, I've been saying that for 28 years. You think I can't say it now. In the programs, we always do practice a conscious breathing, 3 breaths. That's just an introduction to it. I love the idea of breathing consciously before meditation, because what better way to prepare myself to enter into a meditative state than bring myself into the present moment. So thank you for joining me this evening. I truly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you at our Monday night workshop, which will be in August, our August Monday night workshop. I don't have the dates right now, but it probably scrolled across the bottom here. So have a good night and happy breathing.